What is up, you guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be all about how to pick the best graduate school program for you. This is going to be my second grad school series. So the first one was how I studied for the GRE. If you have not seen that video, I will go ahead and link it up there so you can check that out. But yeah, so today we're going to talk all about how to pick the best graduate school program for you, and more than likely for the program that you're interested in. So if you want to get some tips on how to pick the best program, then just keep on watching. The first tip is going to be pretty obvious, and that is to know what you want to go to grad school for. I mean, I know that just seems so just obvious, but that is important. You cannot look up grad schools if you have no idea what you want to go to graduate school for. Also, it is good to know synonyms for your program, because you may look up one program name and you completely come up empty-handed, but then if you type in a synonym for the program, you may come up with a million different hits. So it's very important to know if your program may be considered something different, you know, at different schools. So for example, neuroscience, in terms of like psychology, like some people call it biopsychology. There are some programs that call it behavioral neuroscience. So like I said, things like that, know if your program can be called something different, because schools may do things completely different. So that's the first tip that I have. The second tip that I have is to know whether or not you want to go to graduate school in-state or out-of-state. Because when you're looking up your search, what you're going to do is you're basically going to go into Google and Google is your best friend, and you're basically going to type in so for me, I would type in clinical psychology programs in the state of wherever you want to go. Like I said, if you want to go in-state, type in your state. If you want to go out-of-state and you have an idea of what state you might want to go to, type in that state, and they're hopefully going to give you a list of schools. If you have a program that is not common, you may have a harder time with this. A lot of times, if you have a very rare program, you may have to go into one program, but there is a concentration. So forensic psychology, for example, a lot of the programs, you are going to graduate school for clinical psychology, but the concentration is forensic psychology. So you're getting both of those components. So if you have a rare program, you may have to do one thing, but your concentration is going to be in what you really want to do. So keep that in mind as well when you're determining what programs you want to go into, and also what you're typing into Google. So once you figure out what program you want to go into, and once you figure out what state you want, and once you pull up like all of the schools that have your program, basically what you're going to do is you're going to click on literally each school's website, and you're going to look at the program information. Now, if you're like clinical psychology, for example, I like to look at the course requirements in all of the classes that I'll be taking, because their core classes are normally going to be the same across programs for different schools, but there are going to be some electives that may be different. One school, you may take more electives that you're more interested in than another. That's something to keep in mind. Also, some schools, like I said, let you have a concentration. So if you were just interested in clinical psychology, but one school has a concentration that you can go into, so if you're also interested in neuroscience, one school may give you the option to do a concentration in neuroscience, whereas another school may not. So I always look at the course requirements for the degree program that I'm interested in, just because it's going to give me a little bit more information about the classes that I'm going to be taking, the electives that I can choose from, the concentrations that I may be able to choose from, different research opportunities that I may be able to choose from. Also look at the class size ratio, and also look at how many people they are bringing into the program as a cohort. So the cohort are going to be all of the people that start exactly when you start. Some schools have very small cohorts where they only allow 3 to 4 people into the program at a time. Some schools may have bigger cohorts where they allow 20 to 25 people into the program at one time. Definitely look at the cohort size, because if they only allow 2 people into the program a year, it may be a lot more difficult to get into that specific school. But also, if they have a bigger cohort size, then it may be a little bit more difficult for you to get the one-on-one time with the professor that you may need. And in terms of the class size ratio, normally graduate schools have very small class size ratios, but if you don't do good in big lecture halls, and you go to a big school who allows a lot of people in the cohort, if you don't do good in big lecture halls and they allow 45 people in the class and you know you don't do good in that environment, that may not be the best program for you. Another big thing that I cannot stress that you look at is how you would pay for the program. We all know about student loans, but some schools give you graduate assistantships. Some schools even require you to have a graduate assistantship. So if the graduate assistantship, you basically work, well, I guess it depends, but a lot of times it is part-time because you are a graduate student. And so let's say you'll do 20 hours a week, and it can be within your department, it can be outside of your department. And so you're basically working it as like a job, but in return your tuition is paid, and they also give you a monthly stipend, so basically a paycheck, and that can go towards your bills and everything. So you may have to take out student loans just to cover like your cost of living, but you're not paying your entire tuition on student loans. Also, especially if you're going into a PhD program, which by the way, if you did not know, you do not have to get your master's first and then get your PhD. You can go straight from undergrad into a PhD program or a PsyD program if you're a psych major. So I just thought I would throw that out there. But if you're going into a PhD program, the graduate assistantship is pretty much the same, except a lot of times it's you're doing research and the school is basically saying, hey, what you're going to do is you're going to do this research for me, so it's like a job, and we're going to pay for you to go here. And again, you get the monthly stipend, and so that's basically how a graduate assistantship works. But always look at that because some schools say you have a guaranteed assistantship. Some schools may have a more competitive assistantship program. So you may want to look at schools that you have a guaranteed assistantship, or they require you to have a graduate assistantship, because if they require you to have one, that means there are a lot more opportunities out there for you to get one, and you're not stuck taking out like $60,000 a year in student loans, because trust me, that adds up, and you don't want to be paying off student loans until you're dead. Another big thing to look at is the graduation rate, and especially if you need to do a internship or a practicum or something like that, look at their placement rates, because there are some schools who have really terrible placement rates, and that is a school that you may want to avoid. So there's a school here in Illinois. It is a professional school for psychology, and if you do not know, you have to do a internship. You have to do an internship for graduate school. You have to do your dissertation, and you also have to do your internship, and I think it's like a year or two long. And this particular school has very terrible placement rates, and a lot of it has to do with where the school is located. The school is located in the heart of downtown Chicago, and that makes it a lot harder for students to place into different like internship programs. And a lot of it may have to do with the school as well, because you do have to put down what school you're coming from, and if this certain facility doesn't want to do business with said school, then that can harm your chances of getting into a internship as well. So always look at the graduation rates. You do not want to enter into a program whose graduation rate is 5%. That's no bueno. You also want to look at, like I said, the internship placement rates, because you want to know that for the most part you're going to be able to place into an internship. Some schools help you find places, other schools are like you're on your own, just let me know what you figure out. So that may be something that you're interested in as well. If you know you're not good at like finding things like such as internships, then you may want to look into a school that helps you or places you on their own. But those are really big things to look at, because that impacts how the ending of your graduate school career is going to go. So if your graduation rate is only 5%, that can mean people are dropping out because tuition is too expensive. That can mean they make the program extremely hard because they don't want anyone to graduate. So there's a lot of factors that can go into why graduation rates may be so low. But again, keep that in mind when you're looking for graduate schools programs. So once you have once you've looked at all of that stuff, the best thing to do is to write down a list of schools, write down when your application materials are due, and also write down any requirements that they may have. So you know you're going to need letters of recommendation, but make sure you write down how many. Some schools want 2, some schools want 3. You know you're going to have to send in your transcripts, so that's nothing different. Some schools do require you to take placement tests like the GRE or the GMAT or the LSAT or the MCAT, so depending on what program you're going into. So make sure you know what school or what tests your school requires. Some schools may not require any. And make sure you write down, they give you a code, because when you go in and take the test, they're going to ask for your school's code so that they can send the scores right to your school so that you don't have to do all the hassle. So make sure you write all of that information down so you know, okay, application, the deadline is December 1st. So you know everything has to be turned in by the 1st. Your test scores have to be turned in, your transcripts have to be turned in, your letters of recommendation have to be turned in, your CV or your resume has to be turned in, and your letter has to be turned in. So make sure you write all of that stuff down, because you don't want to miss out on a really great school because you had no idea when all of your information was due and you tried to rush at the last minute to put everything together. Okay, you guys, I think that is all of the tips that I have for this video. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel before you leave, and I will see you guys in the next video.